Welcome back to some more Fire Emblem 4. In fact, it's episode 4 of Fire Emblem 4. I really should have picked 4 tracks just to make it all line up. But today, alas, I've picked 3 tracks from some recommendations. And we're going to start with Army of Verdane. And at least that's what this version of the localized name is called, Army of Verdane. I've heard there's like different army tracks in the game that are really good. I'm not sure if those are like, say when it's the enemy's turn in a battle, the music changes, something like that. But it seemed like there's several names of armies, and I don't think I've done any of them yet. But yeah, this is Army of Verdane. I'll see what I think about it. It'll be nice to get back to some more classic music after it's been a little while since I've gotten to do some. But let's check it out. Something about this initial start here, like, almost feels like a David Bowie thing. Let's dance, like something like that. Cool little counter melody there. You just hear it. It's so much quieter. It's funny, they bring in a second kind of organ synth layer at the start, so they immediately have 2 voices that seem like they're gonna continue, which is more than you expect. Like right there, while it's holding the notes from the first one, it actually brings in the second voice, which is kind of surprising. Does it in the second voice, and then I'm expecting it to continue with those 2 voices, but it actually like has the second voice fade. It's not that it doesn't continue, but I was expecting them to continue at those more equal volumes, but actually fades the other one, assuming it's the same layer, a little bit back. It does some repeated notes, and then it does this little shape in the background. Let me see if I can capture real quick on the keys. Something like that it does. Anyways, it's very cool. It's just like suddenly more than I was expecting the other voices to do. It's like adding this extra detail and other layers, making the music interesting. Gonna do it again. So for a while now, that same layer has gone back to its, it's kind of going back to the just like single note rhythm while other stuff's going on. But we have even more layers. We have multiple upper voices now. Nice. We get that same shape and it extends even further. How cool is that? Let's see if I can figure out what that is. Yeah. Ooh, that sounds amazing. Ah, what a sound. Great melody. Something like that. What a great sound, this like muffled horn sound. Really interesting intervals between those 2 in the duet, or just the interval. Same theme, back to that. Nice, this time counter melody. In the second voice. Got it again. Nice, I kept up with it. Very nice. Very fun. Oh, that was cool. Oh, man. I love the little melodic lines in this piece. They're so good. Oh, I think this is my favorite part. Or no, my favorite part is when it did it earlier. This. I think that's my favorite thing. God, just this like interval between these muffled horns, just what a great texture to make, and on the SNES, like it sounds so good. God, and just how rhythmic this whole soundtrack is. A lot of dotted rhythms, like it's almost becomes a little dancey, like it doesn't play it straight very often, despite the, medieval setting and the ability to write like a classical style, which it, still sometimes could be said to be, but it doesn't write it as straight as it could. It's, I don't know, there's a lot of rhythmic variety that makes a lot of the melodies pretty fun. Like, I don't know, it's a little bit more creative than usual, and I really appreciate it. So that was Army of Verdane, and our next one for this video is Glorious Grannvale. Wait a second. Play this time. I don't want to forget that was really good. I really like that, and I really want to put it on my chill nostalgia, because it wasn't super energy and it fits with all the others. So far, Fire Emblem 4 hasn't made it off the chill nostalgia, which is its home right now, and I'm totally fine with that, but I am curious if I might listen to something that, even in this context, is enough to like feel like it fits in a different space. It almost could, like in calm and stimulating, but it just, all those tracks have quite a different feel than this. It's got like the Globu track from Clair Obscur. Anyways, this was Army of Verdane. All right, back to Glorious Grannvale or Glorious Grandbell. There's some different names I've seen for it. I'll put like a correct thing for the name variations in the chapters for this video, but for this, the track here is called Glorious Grandbell, but I've seen it called Grannvale, and V and B are pretty common to be interchangeable in different languages and localizations. Anyways, let's check it out. Whoa. Oh my god. Gotta lock in for this one. All right. This is, what an opening. Like, it makes sense. Like, the name of the piece, the context is probably in, like, entering a castle or something. It's got a, horn procession kind of feel. Like, it's royal announcement sort of thing, regal. Obviously, it's fitting its tone, but I think it's going beyond that. Like, what an opening. There's a little bit of a retardando, just a little slowdown there, I think. Let me hear it again. Yeah, it absolutely slows down a little bit, which just sounds incredible. I've mentioned it in some other reactions, but I just love a deceleration. It's not used as often as it could be, but it feels natural. It's part of how a musician performs, especially a solo musician. That's what I love about solo instrumental music. There's room for more push and pull, more rubato, more changes in tempo. But in a lot of forms of music, it like just never happens. It's obviously very difficult for an ensemble to do, right? Like a solo performer can do it, but most music people enjoy and listen to is made by multiple people. or at the very least has multiple layers. When it's digital, really, you should have no problem doing this effect, but it still carries forward the traditions of music made by ensembles, right? Like, even if you're working in a digital workstation and you're composing something with different instruments, it still kind of carries forward the sensibilities of gradual tempo shifts being very rare in group music making, because it's even harder to get everybody on sync with that compared to just syncing with the rest of the playing, to the point where it's like, if a band can do like a ritardando or like a decelerando and an accelerando, like if a band can do those, oftentimes it's almost like a way to show off, like, damn, they're like really locked in together if they can do gradual tempo adjustments together and have it really line up. That's how uncommon it is that it's like a almost a way to show off. And that carries forward in the sense of like what's usually possible or what sounds typical or expected in writing for multiple instruments. So my point is, it's not as common as it should be. I think it's one of the great strengths and incredible abilities of music performed by a single musician, that they can stretch and push and pull time in a way that, I mean, maybe certain like, music teachers are going to be, traditional and stick their nose up about that. But I have a pretty strong philosophy that that's a huge organic part of music making, and that there's a lot of feeling of a piece that goes into tempo shifts and, momentary choices in rhythm and just like uniqueness of phrasing and the freedom to do all of that at your whim and your personal musical experience, your interpretation, your feeling in that moment, your sense of what that music means to you and how you feel the phrasing should be. All of that can be done by a solo musician with no resistance. You have free reign to do that. And as soon as you're doing even a duet, even two people, which is something I've been working on some, like I wrote a waltz duet recently, and I've worked on a little bit of like chamber music with a friend. It's so clear that like even just like obviously part of the challenge is just being on tempo together and being in sync and performing correctly. And then the more musicians you add, if a symphony does a gradual tempo shift that accelerates or decelerates, I go to the symphony a lot, and when a symphonic piece does that, again, it's like very much kind of showing off, like, look at what we can do, isn't this impressive? There's oohs and ahs when that happens, but because so much music is composed digitally, especially obviously music that's electronic, it's like it should be used more, but it's so rare that actually in a previous video, when I think it was in the Fire Emblem 4 series, where I associated it with some of the old Sugiyama Dragon Quest music, where there was a notable moment that I always remembered from since I was a kid, where there's a bit of a deceleration in one of the sort of overworld tracks in the early Dragon Quest. I think I first heard it in Dragon Warrior Monsters on the Game Boy, which is one of my favorite games as a kid. So that's how rare it was and how much it stood out. But it's like when you're working with music in a digital format, like you can go back to treating it like you're an individual performer. I mean, it's not the same as somebody physically making the music with their body in real time. And what happens there, you can't really recreate that in a workstation digitally. Or with an electronic piece, but as far as you have the technique and the control ability, the agency over your workstation to implement, as much as you have the technical capacity to do, you could do as much tempo shifting as you wanted. It's probably going to be more systematic and fewer and more targeted than the organic flowing of pacing and phrasing that could occur for a real musician physically. Or acoustically, but you can get kind of towards that. And I feel like it's just generally underutilized, as evidenced by how memorable the few examples are of it that I know. Enough that I brought attention to it last time I heard it in this soundtrack, and now I'm hearing it again, and it's subtle. It barely slows down here. It's very small. And yet, it just has an impact to me personally. I think it stands out. I think it really hits, and it makes me just wish it came up even more. I think like composers who work with digital composition and instrument samples and can compose digitally, as many do, should take even more free rein. I mean, many of them do, but on the whole, I think it could be even more utilized without falling back on the impression you get from how rare it is to hear from traditionally how, you know, music groups with multiple instruments have put things together, and how rare it becomes there. Like, you can go beyond that. Yeah, it just works so well to me that I just want to hear it more. Anyways, tangent over. This intro is really incredible. One thing I wanted to mention is when it goes straight to these horns. I love that they are in sync for a few notes, and then they switch different rhythms and kind of alternate. I just love just immediately these two layers. They're introduced in sync, and then they split apart and become different. In such small spaces of time, the composer is like really figuring out how to just do something a little extra. It's all over the soundtrack. Like, it just feels like it's a little more than could have been done. Like, it just makes this great little back and forth bounce between the two. It could have just been straight with them delivering this rhythm of these notes in a very expected way, and it would still sound great, but it immediately adds more interest in a way that's very catchy. But back to the very beginning, I mean, this is just, the sounds are incredible. Like, it's this clang, this metal, and obviously like a bell sound, and you are picturing, I would imagine most people would be picturing, like, you know, bells clanging from a church or in this city or around this castle, but it's like an odd bell sound. It's like a very odd kind of like dispersed clanging that makes it definitely not trying to recreate the sound of one big, deep, rich bell, single huge bell and like a bell tower. It's clearly not doing that. It's definitely trying to imitate like a group of smaller bells. And you can kind of picture the scene it's creating with that. It's very evocative. And the fact that it's producing it on the SNES, I think has this great sound and is, very uncommon. And it's just this little ostinato. Like, I want to see if I can find this part, just how to play this part. So let's transition over. Yeah, it's definitely just doing... But I think something that's cool is that while it's doing this, it's not fitting the meter of the piece. It's 3 notes that are repeated, but they're repeated in, I think, a 4-note meter relative to this pattern. So it's like, instead of being 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that's not how you feel it, right? I do think different people's ears could hear this differently. Like, you could get the perception this is in 3, but I think once you hear it in 4, which is subtly but clearly shown once the other instruments come in, to me it gives it that feel, and I think it does work that way, is that you don't hear it as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, of just the same 3-note pattern with those bells. I think you actually hear it in a much more interesting way, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which means that there's 3 different patterns depending on which note we're starting on, which makes it way more interesting. And this is a common technique. I think it's a great one to use, where you create one pattern. You could call it an ostinato, like a pattern that repeats, that is in a number of notes that doesn't fit evenly with the meter, so it just naturally creates these unique patterns. So we would have one that's... And that's pretty cool, but we also have... It's the same notes, and it still just cycles them and but starts on a different one, but it has such different character, doesn't it? It's very different. And the other one is like they're very different. They even like carry, like most melodies, they carry some harmonic implication. Like this, the bass one sounds like we're in C, and that we're going up, you know, maybe to the 2, to the 5, and then back to the 1. Like it kind of sounds like that, right? Like, you know, it kind of sounds like that. Whereas if we're doing the one that the last one, it sounds actually implies something different harmonically. There's just a lot of depth to simply changing which of these notes you're starting on. So this being a 3-note pattern in a 4-note meter, just immediately it just changes the perception to hear these as something much more interesting, right? Anyways, I want to find out the other layers. It might just be octaves. I think you can hear the note an octave lower if you listen closely. Yeah, I believe they are in different registers. There's definitely 2 notes sounding in that like group of bells sound, but it doesn't seem to be like a different interval. You know, it's not like it seems to be an octave. Something like that. I think it's just doing that, man. It's really not too hard sometimes to pick out stuff. I could probably just do some piano transcriptions, honestly, of some of this. People probably have. I haven't looked. But, you know, the art of transcriptions, like everybody comes up with something a little different unless it's a super easy piece. Like I would capture the stuff a bit differently than other people. So maybe I should, I don't know. I'm like halfway there with transcriptions with stuff when I do this kind of work in the videos. I hope you guys like it when I explore like what the notes are a little bit. I know it can be simple, but rather than like showing like a beautiful arrangement quickly, or showing my like prowess with the piano, it's not really about that. Like I'm honing in on small bits so that I can then use them to say something interesting about them. Like when I have thoughts about it, like I said with that 3-note pattern in a 4-note context, like it's simple to just show what those notes are, but I think it's effective in using it as a way to leverage talking about something interesting, even if it's simple with the notes. I mean, that's music, right? Like you can just add more and more. You can add more layers, you can add more notes, you can get complex. And I love rich, complex, late romantic music. That's my favorite. But as, you know, the famous, maybe like spurious quote by Chopin says, like after you've played more and more notes at the end, the true goal is simplicity. You know, that's the real achievement after you've done excess. If you can pull back and create greatness with the minimum amount of components, maybe that's still a lot of components, but if all of them have an important place, it doesn't matter if they're small or simple. That's where the art's really happening, right? It's when the components become careless and don't really have a purpose that, I mean, you know, maybe that's the perfect thing to create the overall sound you're looking for. Not every like bit of noise in the sound you're making with 20 different instruments has to be important, but especially in like more focused instrumental work or in retro game music like this, where there's a limited number of elements and complexity, like there can be depth in just a few simple notes. That's just how music works. That's why simple melodies can be catchy and change people's lives because they fall in love with them. It's just a few notes. Who cares? It's probably the same notes that have been written at some other point in history, like whatever, no new stuff can ever be written, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. It's all context. There's subtle ways that different sequence of notes work. Like simple music can be impactful, and you can feel the difference between a soundtrack like this for Fire Emblem 4, where so many little choices feel like they have some depth to explore, versus something else that might be simple. Like, say I might write a piece with the same components. I don't think it's going to be, as good as this. Or maybe it's close because I really imitate the style, but then I'm just doing an imitation, so it doesn't quite count the same way. There's a lot of value in very few components, and I hope that I'm bringing some attention to that. I'm not doing a large-scale harmonic analysis with playing a piano arrangement and playing all the chord progressions and talking about them. I'm not doing that kind of thing, at least not yet, or I don't think that's my style. Anyways, let's continue with this Fire Emblem 4 Essentially podcast. I want to hear this intro again because it's so fucking good. This intro it just got a special something. Just this clanging group of bells, these horns, the way they have these ostinato patterns, the way that it's using the layers. I'm excited to hear the rest of the piece because I know it changes, but like, this is kind of my thing. Like, the beginning of pieces is where you're first exposed to a lot of the elements of it, so there's a lot to talk about. It's where it really sets its tone. Oftentimes is where it does something special. Like, sometimes an intro is a throwaway thing to lead into the real piece, but a lot of times it's like really creating an identity. I've said this before, but like, it actually makes sense for a lot of analysis to be very, very front loaded, and mine definitely is. But we are finally going to listen to more of it. I say that as if that's a bad thing, but you know what? I think for the most part, people who watch me, that's exactly what they want. Instead, I'll apologize for getting back to the music. Just kidding. Anyways, here we go. See the big doors opening. It reminds me of that great Gay of Kiev, like pictures at an exhibition, Mussorgsky. What a great horn melody. And it rises up here. What an arc. Oh my god. I love the use of dynamics here. I mean, it's a great kind of snaking melody that does this beautiful arc up. It keeps I feel like it keeps creating a strong melodic shape, and you feel like it's complete, and then it moves even further up, and it brings it up even further for you, and you realize the melody can go even further, and then does it again, and maybe even again, and it gets quite high up there. But what it's doing to emphasize that even more is that there's a lot of dynamics going on here with the horns, I think. It's subtle again, almost as subtle as or kind of subtle in the way that the deceleration was earlier. But I think you can hear it a little bit. It's hard to tell a little bit because the way horns work is that they oftentimes kind of have a natural crescendo or decrescendo, like the way the voice works with instruments that use breath, brass or woodwinds, also just how they naturally produce sound. Like I saw an all brass ensemble called Ten Thing with Tina Ting. It's Norwegian all women brass ensemble, I think. I might show a clip of them because they are fucking awesome. But it's a full brass ensemble of 10 people. an amazing pun on her name, really amazing naming. One of the best names I've ever heard for any group. It's so clever. But saw a concert with them and really like demonstrated how incredible an all brass ensemble can be at dynamic shifts, at crescendos and decrescendos, because their instruments are just designed for it. They do it really naturally, and just like the speeding up and slowing down is challenging for an ensemble, like doing a smooth crescendo and decrescendo as an ensemble of 10 people is also tricky and kind of showing off and makes everybody ooh and ah. It definitely did. But it is, of those two things, this is definitely much easier to do as a group, and especially more simple when you're playing instruments that enable it well. The point is that like it really demonstrated to me, more than I'd ever seen, the power of dynamics with an instrument like a brass instrument, like a horn, that I never realized before quite how good they are at it. And when you hear a group doing it, you're like, oh shit, like that instrument, those instruments really, really do the most beautiful, clean crescendo and decrescendo. As a pianist, this is my perspective. Of course, somebody who plays another instrument, even a string instrument, even a violinist or cellist probably isn't as impressed by this, because even their instrument can gradually increase in volume or decrease as they play a single note. As a pianist, as much as I feel it's the master instrument, even beyond the organ, I know the organ has more potential, but it doesn't convey touch as much, and touch has so much depth to it. So even though I think the piano is really the master instrument, it has a real shortcoming in that you can't alter your dynamics in a real way. You can only simulate it. You can only play your notes over time with more impact, more velocity, to give the impression that you're gradually increasing or lowering your volume. But really, dynamic shifts that are gradual and well done on the piano are quite hard. They do feel organic when you do them naturally with your body. It's not that they're unnatural, but just like you are in essence making an illusion. Compared to other instruments, you're faking it almost. It's a pretend thing. You're creating the illusion of this connectedness. That goes for really everything, because piano is basically a percussion instrument. There's a lot of illusion you're doing with a piano that other instruments can do for real. And you can't, like, for example, there's tremolos you do on piano to kind of create the sense of a vibrato, which just naturally can be done with so many other instruments. Crescendos and decrescendos are natural capabilities of other instruments, and you can only simulate it on a piano. You can make that illusion. So as my perspective stands, I'm maybe someone who's more impressed by this than someone who plays most other instruments, but this tangent is just saying brass instruments do a beautiful, natural dynamic shift because of how they work. And the reason I brought this up is because I think it's subtle precisely because horn instruments sometimes just naturally have a crescendo in how they create the sound. Obviously, this is not a real horn. Of course, it's not a horn. It's in the SNES. It did not put a little horn in there, as cool as that would be. But I'm not so sure it is actually a programmed crescendo, as it is like the horn sound being used, like has that as part of it because it's simulating a horn, or the composer intentionally added a little bit of crescendo to make it sound more like a real horn, which I think is very likely what's actually the case. In which case also that deserves a lot of praise, because that's a subtle thing to do to make it feel more real. And I want to catch the moment I'm talking about so that I have some evidence here. Yeah, I swear here, and this is more like a piano crescendo actually, because it's a series of shorter notes that gradually get louder. So it's simulating it the way you would on a piano. It's not a crescendo on a single note. But just listen to this part. I think it definitely gets louder. It's subtle, it's like going from 50 to 60% volume, you might say. It's enough, just like that slight slowdown they did earlier. in this piece. I say they as if there's an ensemble playing it, the symphony playing it. All these musicians, I think even though it's subtle, dynamics and tempo changes, they hit for me, especially on the reduced technical space of retro game music. I think they sound to me very advanced when I hear them, and I appreciate it. And even though this is subtle, I really felt like it brought me more into the excitement of this melodic arc. I think if this slight crescendo wasn't there, I wouldn't have been as taken by this horn melody. Even though it's so subtle, I feel like there's almost a little push-pull of the volume. Definitely heightens. Back down. It's quieter. Louder again. It's just used very well. Mm-hmm. Ooh. We get another 3-note shape. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Okay, let me switch over to the camera. It's so funny that I'm just holding up my old webcam now that I got this camera. So I'm using my webcam now instead. Oh, in fact, here. There you are. See this Elgato camera? That's what I'm using. Hello. And that's the one I'm shooting from now. Anyways, so instead of doing... I think is it the downward shape? Yeah, so it's like the perfect inverse. Not exactly, but it's inverse within this space of a fifth. If we're using this as our musical space, this is an inversion, and it's the opposite direction, so it's like a total inversion. So before we had this, I'm emphasizing where the pattern actually starts when it's in the four beat pattern. And now we have, and it's probably in the same context. I couldn't quite tell if they changed meter, but it's probably going to be. Anyways, again, creating a cool shape. I really enjoy that they've brought in this other shape. Ooh. It jumps up basically to the C above. Oh, cool. Nice, nice. Okay, I have to show you what this whole section does. Okay, I had to listen to it one more time. Okay, so obviously we have, which it comes back to here before it leads into this. It does that in some of the instruments. Then it brings in a different part, then it goes up to this C, keeps it going. And then it shifts to a different rhythm, but it's still using these ones in this new shape where it goes, right? It does that, I think. Yeah, it's just more distant. So it's using, again, all these same notes. It's using these ones, goes up to these ones. It was just doing... And now it's doing that. Anyways, the point isn't that it's like the most ingenious like notes ever or something, not to make too big a deal out of it, but the point is that it was very clever even in the first time it was used because of the way it fit 3 notes into 4, and it creates like a cool feeling of it being like a unique set of 3 different patterns instead of 1 pattern. That's already a clever usage. And I just appreciate that was instilled at the beginning in a clever way, and then it's repurposed, and that pattern is kept and reused later in a way where it contrasts it by being perfectly mirrored and opposite and being led into at the same time. And then we get a different context. It sounds different. It's a different rhythm, but it's still using basically the exact same shape and that same pattern. So this whole thing is really built on that. You know, this whole part is just like really playing with that section. Right? These bells are back to doing this. And then we get horns doing the inversion of it, which climbs up a little more. And now the horns do this different rhythm with the same shape. Then we move into more stepwise melodies. What a great sound. It's probably back to a loop point. I'm not sure with some of these if they're actually looping halfway through. Seemed like it was probably a full loop, but anyways, great piece. Really liked that one. Yeah, just what a great, like, I feel like I want to make like a castle or like a town theme section. Oh man, I think I need to do that. I think that makes sense, right? We should have a like a town theme. And while this is more like castle and regal and palace than just town, I still think it would fit. I think I would be happy to have that in the same playlist. Be like, oh, this is like a castle town, right? I'm going to pick some kind of color here. I've kind of used all the colors now, so white could work. I haven't used white, but I feel like white, it just doesn't look like it's special. I'm going to give it also green because it's kind of reminding me of the Forest Core playlist because it's more thematic. Do I just call it Town Core? Town style? Downtown? Going to town? Okay, I'm going to call it Towns I Want to Live In. I'm just going to call it that. And let's actually put the name in here as, uh-oh, well, what do we call it? Not sure. I've seen it called that, but this one calls it Grandbell. And honestly, it has some grand bells. Well, more than one, but I think I'll call it Grandbell for now because that sounds like that's what it should be localized as, considering this piece of music is so bells forward. That makes sense. That's what like the name should be. And Grannvale could be like a mistranslation because Vale, of course, like kind of makes sense for a place to be called. That's also a traditional way to end like the name of a place. Anyways, yeah, I'm down for that. I'm down to do kind of a town theme thing. And Towns I Want to Live In covers a lot of stuff, right? This is a castle-y town. Sounds awesome. I'd like to live there. I'd also love to live in a town with like kind of a Persona vibe. So there's a lot of room for this playlist. I'm actually excited for this one. Yeah. Okay, so back to the videos. Let's go on to the last one. This is Dance in the Skies. Immediately we're getting the same style of like these repeated ostinato patterns in different instruments. We're getting this, again, I don't even know what I would call it, synth organ something? You know, kind of representing an instrumental sound, but I'm not exactly sure which, although it does sound very, very normal. But again, we're getting this 4-note pattern. It's repeating, it's shifting a little bit, but we get this like shing kind of like metallic sound, like someone drawing their sword, maybe? Maybe not quite. Not sure what it's representing, but it's really interesting, and I wonder if there's going to be any more of that in the track. It's a hard sound to create on the SNES. Like, what even is it? Huh. Reminds me of doing the Persona 1 track I did with the forest that has like a cash register sound that goes off intermittently. I'm like wondering if this is going to be like the Persona 1 cash register sound. Although some people said they don't hear it as that, which is interesting. But yeah, the patterns are shifting a little bit. Oh no, okay, it's still there. It's going to be regular. Ooh, interesting. Okay, it shifts ears. If you have the ability to hear stereo. That was on the left. And this one was on the right. Now, was the first one on the right? Is it alternating? Yes. Okay, so they're going right to left and back and forth every time it does this metallic sort of shing sound, which is a very, very cool choice. Just like saying, well, if I'm going to have this interesting sound that really stands out in its own kind of layer, let's once again take something simple, and the composer looks for a way to elevate it just a little bit. Like, why not make this alternate stereo? It's a sound that is so distant from the others sonically, in the sound stage, you would call it. However it's being heard, that if you alternate it stereo, it's going to be really noticeable. So why not? It adds something to it. It's just always reaching for a little more. And again, it's got these layers moving. The one pattern, dun, 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 or something like that, which starts one way after a few statements. It shifts one of the notes, but it kind of sticks with those patterns. But it, it has a little variety. And then we have other layers on top of it, and we're going to get even more layers. Just this consistent bass note. Very clear 4-beat pattern. Wow, those layers mix in a really interesting way, pitch-wise here. Okay, I have to find out what the crunch is there. I want to find the distance. So let's do the little handheld camera again. Let's explore this. So we're hearing this dissonance. So yeah, it's holding that D flat or it's holding the C natural while we get the D flat in that original pattern back from the very start. This pattern, and then we get it. Yeah, so that's what's happening there. That's why. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so what did it do? Oh, okay. I was like, did it finally go to A flat? No, it went to D flat, my favorite key. Oops, dropped something. Yeah, no, it finally went to D flat. Whoa, okay. that sound is everywhere now. Holy shit. Ooh, that's cool. So every time it went dun, 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 like in the little shimmery sounds, it did that set of 3 sounds in one ear, and then the next 3 would be in the other ear. But then this one had a cool like delay. Yeah, right here. That's so cool. It gets you so used to it. And then this statement, it just weirdly hangs on. It like teases you for a second. It's like, no, you're not going to get it. Okay, you can have it. Yeah, it like waits so long, waits like 3 or 4 times as long, but you kind of know it's coming still, and it finally gives you that. I didn't even notice anything else that was happening because those sets of 3 sounds alternating between the ears, and that one with just the hold back and the delay on it at the end was so interesting to me that I didn't notice anything else that was happening. We had some chords finally like holding things up. Beautiful. Oh, great like left hand kind of piano like type of shape here. I need 2 hands to maybe do this. I can't quite show it. Oh no, I can. Anyways, this is a G flat pattern. Anyways, it started doing some patterns like that. It was doing like, it switched to doing some static chords for support harmonically, and then it started breaking them out into some patterns actually. From just the solid chords, adding that interest back in with those shapes. It sounds so good, that left hand. In different keys. And then it shifts back into the kind of ostinato repeated pattern that we heard early on. But it feels like it morphed out into that, from the chords into those shapes, that it does in different keys, different chords, and then it gradually comes, it feels like it morphs back into the original patterns. Ooh, what is that horn sound out of nowhere? It's like in a layer right in the middle of everything. It's almost hard to detect. Just a little F natural horn, an F horn. Keeps doing it. It's actually a really good combined rhythm that's very addictive. Ooh. Half step down, that added a little dissonance there. Yeah, I think we're still getting the same dissonance as before, and we might be getting an extra one a little higher as well. So there's some funky stuff going on there. Oh, this sounds great. All the layers just come together so well. There we are, that's the loop point. Let me just double check. Yeah, okay, definitely the loop point. So I won't overanalyze the rest of it. What a great track. I'm trying to look at some bits again to think about where I want this on a playlist. What a great track. Really good suggestion. You were right to suggest this. especially here, it just really comes into its own with when the static stable chords come in underneath. We've got these sounds really going off in both ears. They're really distinctive. We still have these patterns happening. Again, we get a little crescendo here, again making good use of dynamics. Yeah, that top note really crescendos. That B flat in the piece, it really has a great crescendo. So there's even dynamics going on. I really like the minor feel that section ends on with that chord. I think that might be the... Oh, I thought it was going to be the E flat minor, the relative minor from the G flat major that I started showing for this pattern, but no, it's actually just a regular F minor. F minor. Which is beautiful. I love that kind of shape in F minor. It just always sounds good. Yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, just for a quick sec. So that pattern, you know, first we were getting like one like this. And then at the end there of this section we get... Instead of jumping all the way up again a fifth, it just ends on this minor third to really emphasize this dark sound. Which is lovely piano writing on its own, you know, simple, but good. You know, I really appreciate it. So what am I gonna put this in? Man, I actually do not know if this makes it out of chill nostalgia as well. It's not Tranquility. It's not like Mega Man-esque. I don't think it's Orchestrated Energy. I mean, you can't compete with the Orchestrated Energy in these Xenoblade Chronicles tracks. Like, they are over the top and very jazzy, but not the generally jazzy, like the Monaco. It's almost in dramatic classical or forest score. You know what? I think it still goes in chill nostalgia. It's a little bit chill. It's not super chill, but yeah, Dance in the Skies or whatever other localized names it has. I am gonna put it here because I still think it fits with the rest of this, which has a variety of moods, but it overall has like a similar feel because of the, you know, the sound of the SNES. And these other tracks have quite a lot of variety as well. I mean, they're good enough to make the playlist. It looks like I just dumped everything on, but I did not actually put every Fire Emblem 4 track on here. There's some that I passed on in terms of just needing to hear over and over again on a playlist, but clearly most of them made it. And you know what? Silesia Palace might deserve to be swapped to Towns I Want to Live In. Yeah, let me check what Silesia Palace sounded like again. I've already forgotten. Right, I mean, it definitely has like a kind of waltzy feel, or like it does have that kind of regal procession-y music sound for Silesia Palace, but I think while I put Glorious Grandbell here sounding like a castle town, it does sound like a castle town. And maybe I would put like a castle track here too, because they can be very close to town music. Like you think of Dragon Quest, kind of like very classical castle themes, I would consider those in this category. But I think Silesia Palace it's too unique. It almost could fit in like a Great Fairies fountain kind of thing. So I think I'm going to leave it here because it's too unique to like match something else too well. Anyways, I think Dance in the Skies goes there. I can't wait till this playlist either spawns different ones or it has a lot of variety from other retro games, because I think this is going to be an awesome playlist of very good quality, retro or like limited tracks that I discovered and really liked through this series of videos. Anyways, thank you for sticking with me with this. Maybe I'm going to edit these into individual videos. I will think about it. I'm not sure if this would be a 1 hour and 21 minute unedited video if I were to just drop the live stream as a video, and maybe I'll do that. But we'll see. When you see this, you will find out what it is I picked to do. If I decided to edit them a lot and cut them into individual videos, if I kept all three together but I edited it really down to be more concise, or if I left it as whole as I could and didn't care about daunting people as I ramble and basically do, a podcast episode on this. Anyways, thank you for joining. This was very fun, and I hope to see you in more reactions as I try different approaches for things and just see where this goes. I'll see you next time, and hope you have great success in your uncertain ventures. Until next time.